friends. Welcome to the Homeschool Show, where we teach you how to create the homeschool lifestyle that you love living with your kids, your family, and your home. So today we're going to be focusing on why. Not the how, but the why, because the why has to come before the how. So often people ask me how to homeschool. And I actually wrote a little book called How to Homeschool. But homeschooling looks so different in every family. And even within one family, you might have 2, 3, 4, 5 kids. Or like me, I have 15 kids that all need a different path because every child is individual. And we're not looking to standardize our kids to make them cogs in a system. We want to raise our kids with a plan for their homeschooling that's going to launch them into the life that is going to be so fulfilling and is going to be a life that is going to be full of character, where they're going to be able to pursue their calling, earn an income, have a happy family someday. So before we ask the question, how do I create the homeschool lifestyle that I dream of, where my kid's going to turn out so smart and successful and all that, the question is why? So think about it for a moment. Why not just send your kid to school so you can have more free time to yourself? Why not just let the government raise your kids 6, 7, 8 hours of the day so that you can focus on a career and make money? Why does it matter? Why don't you want to standardize your child and make them pretty much like everybody else? Why homeschool? So as we come into homeschooling, we all homeschool for a reason. And yet we often don't contemplate that reason for very long, and we start grasping for answers. How do I do this? How do I homeschool? How do I create school at home? How do I make sure my kids aren't falling behind? How do I keep them to grade level? And we start asking these how questions without focusing first on the why question. I don't know why you decided that homeschooling would be the best fit for your family and for your child. I know why we homeschool, and maybe you have a similar reason for homeschooling. Maybe it's totally different, because there are as many different reasons to homeschool as there are homeschooling families. Some people, they want to homeschool because they just want to spend more time with their kids, and they want to be a tighter, closer family. They want to build relationships. Some people want to homeschool because they want to prepare their child for a unique calling and career that's going to be more individualized for that child. Some people homeschool for the freedom. They want to be able to travel. They want to be able to have a home business or a family business, where homeschooling is just so much more convenient than having to send a child away and live their lives based on the public school education calendar. Some people homeschool because of their faith. They don't want people teaching their kids multiple hours a day according to what the school system and the school board believes a child needs to learn. Some of us feel like our kids are going to get a much better education if they're homeschooled in a one-on-one environment by the people who love them the most. And some people believe that education has nothing to do with textbooks, workbooks, structures, and schedules, but a child needs to learn to become a successful adult by immersion into the exciting adult world, where they get to learn by working alongside mom and dad in a family business. There are so many reasons to homeschool, and I'm going to share mine, and then we're going to talk about why it's not actually the most important thing in the world to standardize your child, keep them on grade level, and keep up with the public school. So, why do we homeschool? You know, For me, I really love being the one to raise my kids. I love being the one to really shape the childhood, to shape the environment that they're going to grow up in. I love designing environments. I love creating a home. I love creating just a place where people thrive, where kids thrive. I love choosing the colors of the room. I love filling it with books that will spark the imagination of my kids. I love creating little areas and zones where they can do arts and crafts and science. And I love learning alongside them. I love being a student of each of my children to find out what they love, what they're curious about. You know, when you have a little one, 4 or 5 years old, they are so full of curiosity and wonder, and you don't even have to have a curriculum because there is a curriculum is already within each child, because every child, 3, 4, 5 years old, they're constantly saying, why, how, why, how, why, how. Most kids are asking like 700 or 800 questions a day, and just being there and encouraging them in their curiosity and helping them find the answers is the education that they need. Some people wonder why kids stop being curious, why they stop asking questions. I've noticed that for as long as my kids keep getting answers to their questions, they keep asking questions. And so when they're 4, 5, 6, they're too little to find the answers on their own. They're not reading yet. They can't turn on a documentary or get on a website, but they're so full of wonder. They're so full of curiosity, and they're so full of questions. And you are the one who gets to take them on that quest for learning. And one reason why I homeschool is so that I can keep answering those questions, because those questions are going to help them discover who they are, what their calling is, and help them to discover where their place is in this world. Every child has within them a purpose and a calling that is just unfolding before your eyes. And when they get to be 5, 6 years old, I would never want to send them away to somebody else who doesn't have the same love and the same care, the same compassion, the same goals that I do. I want to be the one who's going to be helping them on their path to discovering who they are and investing in them. Your children are wired to become like the people that surround them. So if you put them in a classroom where there's one adult and 25 other kids with almost their same birth year, every time, what are they going to learn from the people around them? Your 5-year-old is now in an environment where they just get to learn from other 5-year-olds. But the family setting is an incredible place for kids to learn because they have children and family members that are older, and maybe they have family members that are younger. So a diverse learning environment is so much better for kids than one where all the kids are learning and doing the same thing at the same stage. So when your child is surrounded by people in different ages, different stages, they are going to rise to the level of the people surrounding them that are learning on a higher level, and your child is going to keep growing and learning and exploring and discovering things on a higher level. But when you put a child into a room with just a bunch of kids the same age, you know what's going to happen? They're going to start taking on all the bad habits of all the kids in the room, and then they're going to have one adult who has to deal with that. People wonder, how are you going to socialize your child? I don't think it's a good idea to think that putting your child in a room with 20 or 30 other kids in the exact same age is actually a good idea. That is not good socialization. If you want your child to be good at socializing and be good at conversation, learning new skills and learning from others, you want to expose them to people who are more advanced than they are. And that is the perfect setting for a child, a family where they're going to be surrounded by adults who genuinely care about them, older sisters, brothers, cousins, aunts, uncles, grandparents, neighbors, and people that the parents work with. And when your child gets curious about something, you can have an adult who has those skills to come alongside and teach skills to your kids. And so why do I homeschool? Because I want to raise my kids in an environment where other people are going to be lifting them up and not pulling them down to a lower level. When kids are in a classroom, the teacher has to teach at the pace of the slowest child in the classroom in every subject. And they're not getting a holistic education when you're teaching your children by answering the questions that excite them based on their curiosity. You're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into the subjects that they love. And let's say your child is super excited about learning about horses. If they're in a classroom, they're not going to get a chance to learn about horses. But if they're at home, you can take them to visit a place where there's real live horses. You can also teach them about the science of horses, the history of horses. You can read literature about horses. You can explore art related to horses. You can do art projects based on horses. You can join a 4-H club where kids get to learn about horses, whether they have their own horse or not. There are so many things that you can do where you have a topic that you study and you introduce your child to so many different educational subjects based on that topic. And the amazing thing is the reason why we homeschool is because your child can dig deeper and deeper and deeper into science, history, social studies, literature, and math related to the topics that they love. And so when you're homeschooling, you get to begin to discover what your child was created to do, and you get to build a lifestyle around that child's passion. And that is really exciting. When you try to create a school at home where you do like a conventional classroom environment for your child, and you do like 30 minutes of math, 30 minutes of spelling, 30 minutes of science, 30 minutes of social studies, so 30 minutes of history, 30 minutes of English, and 30 minutes of science, all based on grade level, your child doesn't have a chance to really ask questions, dig deep, and get curious. And so the reason why we homeschool is so that we can customize each child's education around who it is that they were created to be. And I believe that God put every person on this earth with a calling within them, with just this vision in their heart to do something to make the world a better place, to solve problems, and to create great art, to do great things, to be an inspiration, to be an influence, and to be happy, to be joyful, to have good character, to be people who are honest. 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds, they have this spark of life. They have this spark in their eyes, in their heart, in their imagination. You know what often happens when they go to school? They lose their spark. It's so sad. They lose their curiosity. It's really depressing. And they lose their wonder about the world, and they stop asking questions. And that is why we homeschool. That's really when you get down to it, because you don't want to let them lose the wonder. You don't want them to lose that zest for life. And if you believe that curiosity matters in a child, then you are on the right track. If you love your child and you want the best for them, then you are on the right track. It doesn't matter if they're on grade level. It doesn't matter if they're getting properly standardized and doing well on standardized tests. There was a time I was really struggling with one of my kids. My second child was so far behind grade level because she was almost 9 years old. She could not read or write one bit. And I was really struggling. I was really feeling like I was totally a failure as a homeschool mom because she was so far behind grade level. And people were starting to think that I was just a super bad homeschool mom and I should put that kid in school so she will have a better opportunity to get the remedial kind of learning experience. People were even saying that, well, if she were in school, she would be reading by now. We didn't understand that she had dyslexia, and we didn't understand that that was an absolute gift. I knew it. I knew Anna was incredible. She was making up songs. She was doing math in her head. She was creating worlds in our living room. She was putting on shows. She was doing so many amazing things. Her artwork was incredible, but I felt so guilty because she wasn't on grade level. But who is to say what every child needs to learn based on a different age? So, rewind and let's think back to why schools are the way they are. School was a pretty good idea when it was kind of more that one-room schoolhouse environment where there were a bunch of kids, all different ages, and parents were collaborating to create community schools, and someone from the community would organize the learning for the kids, but you would have kids ages 5 to 12 in a one-room schoolhouse where you had kids who were still in a learning environment that was more like a family. And the whole community was involved in the education of the kids. Kids were going to school in the fall, the spring, and the winter when it wasn't time to be working in the family business and on the farm, and you could fit all that learning that kids needed to be part of their community just in a few hours a day, and then they would go home and they would be part of their family business, often doing an apprenticeship with their dad or with their uncle or with their grandmother. And then a lot of times they were helping with the farm and with the household and with younger children. And the education was very family-centered, very community-centered. And these community schools were more like big homeschool groups. They were kind of like homeschooling co-ops, and they weren't every day for hours and hours and hours a day. Families and communities were collaborating just like small neighborhood schools and homeschooling co-ops. But then schooling became industrialized, and we began to segregate kids, and we began to stop valuing diversity and just this beautiful environment where kids of all ages are learning together. And we began to put 30 kids in a room all day long with one adult where every single activity was highly structured and all the subjects were separate from each other. And another thing, kids were not getting individualized education based on their talents, their abilities, their strengths, their weaknesses, or even their career goals. We were separating kids from their family, from their neighborhood, from their community, and from their family businesses, and we were trying to make them all alike. And this was working for some people, but not all people, especially active young boys who needed to get all that energy out. School just was no longer a healthy, vibrant environment for a diverse style of learning. And so many kids were just losing their passion. And so after about 100 years of standardizing education, here we are in 2024 or 2028 or whatever year it is while you're listening to this podcast, and we have decided that education can be customized. It can be family-centered, and we can launch kids into this career that they're going to love, this lifestyle that they're going to love, this calling that they're going to love, and it doesn't have to look like grade level learning in a classroom. And so, what I want to talk about before we wrap this up is the what. We just talked about the why. We need to talk about the what. So, why are you homeschooling? That's the most important thing. Now, what are the keys to actually learning? So, I made this little book. It's called Flip to Fun Schooling, the Idea Book and Homeschooling Journal. It's got 180 different activities for moms. And I have this little section in here, and it's called What are the 5 keys to learning, remembering, and applying knowledge? Because once you get started with homeschooling, no matter why you want to homeschool, the next goal is to make sure your kids are learning, remembering, and applying knowledge. And if your homeschooling experience that you're creating for your kids is super boring, they are not going to learn, they're not going to remember, and they are not going to apply knowledge from their homeschooling to their life. So a lot of times, kids get super bored when you're trying to recreate like classroom, grade level, boxed curriculum education at home. And curious kids are going to totally just not cooperate with that. And then you're going to totally have like a problem on your hands because you're trying to be this loving mom giving your kids like the best possible education because somebody sold you a curriculum and said, if you give your kids this curriculum and you make them do it every day and you teach them every day and you follow all these rules, your kids are going to be on grade level and they'll be ready for college. Rewind and let's think about what we really want for our kids. We want our kids to have lives of joy. We want them to be able to create successful relationships, vibrant home lives. We want them to be able to be successful when they're raising their own family. We want them to have awesome life skills. We want them to be able to get a really good job or own a business. Or we want to raise homemakers who are going to be raising kids while they're contributing to their husband's business or employment in a really positive way. And so look down the road and think, what kind of life do I want to prepare my child for? Do you really want to prepare your child to just have to do like 20 years of education and having a huge pile of college debt? Or maybe you want to pay $100,000 for your child to get a degree that they maybe aren't even going to use. What else could you do with $100,000 investing in your kid's future? There are so many things you could do for a much smaller investment of money, time, energy, resources, and relationship that will get your kids on a much better track for life than just investing in education. And that's a whole nother conversation. If you want to have that conversation, let's have that conversation. Go ahead and let me know in the comments if you want to talk more about alternatives to college and how to invest in your kids' future. But what I want you to think about is what track you need to put your child on so that they can become a person that is going to be happy and fulfilled and fulfilling a calling. Because life is not just about making money for your boss and doing a good job at your employment. Life is about solving people's problems in such an awesome way that they're going to give you a lot of money to do that. That is how we make money. We make money because we are meeting a need in such an awesome way that people are going to pay us to do that. And if you're not meeting a need in an awesome way that people want to pay you, then you are not going to be successful in business. So, one reason that we're homeschooling is to prepare our kids to make money in the future. That's really important. What else do we need to prepare our kids for? To have really strong, healthy relationships, right? So we want our kids to get lots of experience learning how to be good at conversation, learn how to forgive, learn how to be full of gratitude, how to be generous. So these things are often so much more important than getting good grades in science, social studies, and history. Raising honest, kind children. I would so much rather have children who are honest and kind than children who have really good scores on a standardized test. What else do we want our children to learn? We want them to learn how to make healthy choices for their minds and their bodies, right? In school, they are not learning how to make healthy choices for their mind and their bodies. They're just not. We can talk more about that later too. But you want your kids to be active, right? You don't want them just be sitting around in a desk all day long on screens or looking at workbooks. You want them to be healthy and active. So that means that you want them to be out in nature, and you want them to be working in a garden. You want them to be exploring nature. You want them to be exercising, getting fit, participating in games, maybe in sports. And so just having the goal for a kid to sit still and be quiet all day and do a good job on the books, the reason they do that is so that one adult can handle 25 kids. Okay, seriously, what adult in the world would really choose to spend all day long in a room with 25 kids where every once in a while they get to go to like a music class or a recess or a lunch? I have 15 children. Do not put me in a room with all 15 of those kids where they all have to sit in a desk and work on books. That is a recipe for misery. No, thank you. We want to live beautiful, vibrant, active lives where we are doing the fun stuff, okay? The fun stuff like exploring, discovering, being curious, going on quests, learning, interacting with animals. I took all my kids to the zoo today, plus a couple extra kids that aren't even my kids, my husband, my grandson. It was so much fun. We hadn't gone to the zoo for a while, and we weren't going to school today. We were celebrating Mother's Day early, and so we just loaded all the kids up in the 15-passenger van and went to the zoo. Because we can, because we homeschool, and that is education. And then we came home, and 4 of my friends' kids came over to spend a couple hours with our family, and then another homeschool kid is teaching a couple of my teenagers Spanish. You have so much freedom when you homeschool. But you know what we're doing? We are learning how to have healthy, active lifestyles where we learn how to interact with other people. If you have to sit still and be quiet all day, just listen to one person talk, that is not a healthy and active lifestyle. And school lunches, that is really nasty stuff. That is not healthy. Probably full of GMOs. I don't know what's in that stuff. The school lunches were disgusting when I was a kid. When you are homeschooling, you get to make sure your kids are getting really healthy food. And that's another conversation, like how to actually have a really healthy body and healthy lifestyle and healthy meals. And you know what another awesome thing about homeschooling is you get to have meals with your kids 2-3 times a day. So you get to gather your family around the table. There was a study that you can look it up where they evaluated a bunch of super successful people to find out what the recipe for success is. What in the world do these super successful, happy people have in common? 2 things. Their families had a meal together almost every day, and their mom and dad stuck together. So, super great advice. You want your kids to be successful, stick together, focus on your marriage, have a good marriage, make the sacrifices that it takes to really make your marriage a great example to your kids so that they can have great relationships and great marriages in the future, and gather together for family meals. Our family meal a lot of times is breakfast now that our kids are 9 to 25, and a lot of times they're not home in the afternoons and evenings. So we have breakfast together, and then once a week we have a big family dinner, and our kids love inviting their friends to that family dinner. But what kind of people do you want your kids to be? What kind of lifestyle do you want? You got to think about your why, you got to think about your what, and then you got to think about your how. So often we see somebody else's life and we say, how do you do that? No, stop. Stop asking everybody else how they do it and start asking yourself, your children, your husband. Ask them, why do we do it? And then what is it going to take? What do we want to do? What do we want our life to look like? So here's what you do. You say, what do we want our life to look like 10 years from now? And you work backwards from that dream. Everything that is not relevant to the dream of what you want your life and your family and your kids' lives to look like 10, 15, 20 years from now, throw it out. It doesn't matter. It does not matter what third grade level looks like for your kid. Get a vision. Catch a vision of what you want your life to look like 15 years from now, 10 years from now, 5 years from now. Think down the road. Envision it. Write it down. You've got to write down your dreams, because if you write down your dreams, you are way more likely to live your dreams. And then once you know what that vision for your life, for your family, for your kids is, deconstruct the vision and figure out what is it going to take to get there. So often we just want to imitate what other people are doing without having long-term goals of where we want to go. Where do you want to go with your family? What do you want to do? Then ask, how do we get there? So learning, that's a big deal, right? Education, that's a big deal. You know what? Your kids are pretty much going to turn out just like you. It happens. Whatever you're modeling, whatever your example is, whatever you're doing every day, whatever your home life looks like, how you pursue your hobbies, your relationship with God, your church community, your extended family, how you treat your parents, how you treat your grandparents, your relationship with your sisters, your brothers, your relationship to the land, your relationship to your home, how you keep your home, how you start new businesses, how you take risks. Your children are watching you. And whatever you do, that is the model that they're going to live by. So before you look at somebody else's life and say, how do I homeschool my kid? How do you live? Is the way you live right now, how old are you? 32, 37, 24, 15, 47 like me? Look at your life. Think about your child. When your child is the same age that you are now, what do you hope their life will look like? If it doesn't look a whole lot like yours, then maybe you need to rethink how you live, what you're living for, and why you're doing it. So this is a homeschool conversation. And when you're homeschooling, you need to rethink education. You know what? I'm an education specialist, right? But education is not the most important thing in the life of my children. It's not the most important thing to me. Education seems to be this system of learning that one thing builds on another, and you have this body of knowledge that you're supposed to acquire. Throw it out. Let's develop a passion for reaching our goals and learning about the things that we love. And so, in my quest to understand how to teach my kids, I learned that I don't need to even teach them at all. You know how much time I spend teaching my kids? Hardly any time at all. I really don't. I make some effort to teach them how to read, but then I create an environment for learning. And this is what it looks like. I give them the keys to learning, and then I send them on a quest. The first key to learning is a spark of curiosity. If someone isn't curious, then they have no reason to learn. They have no reason to open their mind and to go after knowledge. The first key to learning is curiosity. Without curiosity, there is no reason to learn something new. The second key to learning and to remembering what you learn is this quest for knowledge. You have to go on this personal quest to find the answers. School doesn't look like this, guys, so stop trying to recreate school at home. Learning is a quest for knowledge, a quest for answers. It is the process of exploration. And then the third key to learning and remembering anything, it's emotion when you have a moment of discovery. So here's how it goes. You become curious and you ask that question. Who, what, when, where, why, how? And then you go on a quest for knowledge, and this quest is deeply personal for every child, for every man, for every woman who wants to learn something. And then when you discover the answer, there's this emotion that wells up inside of you, and it is the emotion of this moment when you learn what it is that you were setting out to learn. And this is why we learn, because we are on a quest to acquire knowledge because we're curious. So you're curious, you go on a quest, and then you have this moment of discovery. When you have that moment of discovery because you are on a quest for knowledge, your brain fires up, and there's this thing that happens in your mind where you had this deep hunger for this knowledge, and your mind just wraps itself around this thing you just discovered, and your brain opens up all these synapses to say, aha, I found it. I found the answer. This was something really important that I was after. And your brain is going to store this knowledge in long-term memory. It's going to make all these connections. So it's going to be really easy for you to recall and remember this thing that you got emotional about. If you are not excited and emotional about what you're learning, you're going to forget. If your child is not excited and emotional about the thing that they're learning, they're going to forget. So if it's just science, social studies, English, spelling, history, all these things they have to learn one on top of another so that they can just take a test, there is no emotion, there is no quest, there is no curiosity. So guess what? There is no learning. Isn't that sad? Spending all this time trying to invest these learning experiences into our kids, and we call it education, and they can't remember anything. So, the fourth key to learning and remembering, very important, very, very important. When you learn something, and then it's so important to you that you want to share it with someone else. So here's the thing. When you learn something, you're going to remember it the best when you go through the process of telling and sharing and showing that learning experience with someone else. So you know what? When you have your 5-year-old kid and they like, why is the sky blue? And so you do all the research and you tell them why the sky is blue, and they look up there and it's blue. And then dad comes home and they're like, Dad, do you know why the sky is blue? And then they tell dad why the sky is blue. And then they tell their 3-year-old little sister why the sky is blue. This is when learning becomes real, when it becomes deeply ingrained in our minds, when you teach someone else, when you share someone else with someone else. But that is not the pinnacle of learning. Nope. It's not curiosity. It's not the quest. It's not that emotion of discovery. And it's not even teaching somebody what you just learned. That is not what learning is all about. The greatest thing that happens when you've actually learned something is that you take that knowledge and you create something new. That is the highest level of learning, to create. And so often we have these amazing kids that are full of imagination and creativity, and we're like, stop creating. You are creative enough. Sit down and memorize this information. Memorization and remembering is like, that is the lowest level of learning. But when your kids learn how to evaluate, analyze, and create, That is the highest level of learning. So the goal in learning, the highest level of learning, is to inspire and teach and be an example to your kids so that they can analyze something, they can evaluate something, and then they can create something new. And the creation of something new is the most amazing thing about being human, because we are created in the image of God, and God creates. You know what? The animal kingdom, they are not like us. Sometimes they build nests, but all the birds, the same type of bird, they all create the same type of nest. The beavers, they all build the same type of dams. But humans are incredibly gifted to create new things. So if you have a child who's excited about creating and building and doing something new, you have been a successful homeschool mom. If your child is creating, you are an incredible success, because creating is the highest level of learning. So let's work through this again. First of all, you need to understand why you homeschool. Second, you need to think about what you want your child to become and what kind of lifestyle you want to live. Number 3, you want to understand the keys of learning. True learning begins with curiosity, followed by a quest for knowledge. And then there's that emotion of discovery, spontaneous sharing, and then the creation of something new. And so that is why we don't need to replicate standardized education. You don't need to worry about grade level learning. You need to worry about making sure that you value creativity, imagination, and curiosity, because you have a chance to love your child by empowering them to become who they were created to be. An incredible, unique human being created in the image of God. You are building character, you are building skills, you are going on a quest for creativity and knowledge with your child. And you're doing this because you love them. Nobody loves them like you do. So why are you homeschooling? And why is your homeschool lifestyle and your homeschool experience going to look so different from a standardized classroom? Because you are unique. Your child is unique, and you have a dream. So, remember what I said. You need to think about where you want to be in 15 years. I'm 47. How old are you going to be in 15 years? You need to learn from the people who are already there, who are already accomplishing the lifestyle and the dream that you want to live, and you want to learn from them. Homeschooling isn't just about keeping your kid on grade level so that they can go to college, so that they can be like everybody else. You have a unique journey, you have a unique child, and that is your child that God put into your family because you have what it takes to raise that child. Maybe you're really struggling right now and your lifestyle doesn't look anything like you want it to look, so you just need to stop. You need to de-school. You need to start thinking about what you want your life to look like, and you need to ask why. Why does it matter? Because you are worth it. Your kids are worth it. Your future is worth it. Your marriage is worth it. Your business is worth it. But why do you do it all? That's the question. Tell me why in the comments. I would love to hear, because we're all different. And if this podcast has been an inspiration to you, I want to know, and I want to know what you want to talk about next. What are we talking about? Homeschool, lifestyle, and just working through all the struggles with kids, with marriage, with special needs, with dreams, with goals, with travel, world schooling, wild schooling, unschooling, fun schooling, and just being willing to live outside the box so that you can dream being willing to live outside the box so you can dream and you can live the life that you were created to live. So I would love it if you would join our email newsletter so that we can give you updates. And here's the good news. My daughter and I wrote a book, and it's called Mom Files. And that book is available to you for free when you sign up for our newsletter. My daughter Anna rummaged through like a bunch of my journals, articles that I had written, recipes that we love in our family. And she wrote this A to Z with Sarah Janice Brown, all these fun tips. She did this when she was 17, I think, so that she was creating this kind of heirloom. I have 12 daughters, and I'm raising them to be awesome homemakers and entrepreneurs, and I want to teach them how to have this like passive income. But most of all, I want them to be able to just love and raise the next generation with joy and to create beautiful, wonderful homes that their family loves living in. And so that's why Anna and I wrote the book Mom Files, to inspire you with the why and the how and the what of creating this beautiful homeschool lifestyle. Your lifestyle is going to look totally different from mine. And you know what's fun? I started my Instagram like 10 years ago, and I've probably have like 2,000 posts. If you want to see my family journey, I want to challenge you to get on my Instagram, Sarah Janice Brown, and scroll back to the back when I was having babies. I was actually like having babies on Instagram, like, you know, before it was popular. And so go see my family, watch my family grow up. It's pretty cool. The reason I want to challenge you to go back to my Instagram and go see what we were doing 10, 12 years ago is because I want you to see how a family grows and changes through the years. And it's easy to follow people who are just like getting on Instagram a year or two, and they're like trying to make this awesome, like, follow me because I've got this beautiful life and this beautiful house and everything. But you know what? Follow real people that you want to be like. But don't worry if your life doesn't look like their life. We're all at different stages, different pages in our story. And I just want to encourage you to be you, be the best version of you. And God gave you those kids because you were the one that was created to raise them. And you can do this. So I hope you learned a thing or two about how to create your homeschool lifestyle today by beginning with the question, why?